Hello and welcome everybody. We are here today, stage 5 of the Giro d'Europa. We've made it to the end. I'm Mike Lister and as always I'm here with my co-host Riley Harvey. Good evening, Riley.
Good evening, Mike. How you doing?
Yeah, good, thanks. You're going to see me very shortly bombing across this viaduct. Hopefully bombing anyway. It is downhill, so I should get a little bit of speed. And yeah, I'm glad that we're on the final stage. It's been a hard week of racing. How are you feeling after 5 days of commentary? How's your voice?
We're bearing it well. The coffee's lubricating the larynx and we're ready to go for another hour.
Good stuff. You've done a great job holding the fort whilst I've mostly been panting away in the background. So looking forward to hearing what you've got to say this evening. Right, so quick recap. Where have we been this week? Cap Formenta, seems like an age ago now, on Monday. And we followed that up with 2 intense laps of the Ronda. The flat crit race in Tempelhof Airport. Pienza yesterday, where I struggled a little bit. Hoping today I've got a little bit of legs left for Dirty Riva up in the north of England. It's going to be a mix of tarmac and gravel riding over the 17.7 kilometres. 225 metres of climbing. No major climbs, but short, sharp, punchy, up to 20% little efforts. So they are likely to break up the field at various points. Riley, as always, you've gone and done your recon ride. Let's have a recap of that and give us some insight into the course we've got this evening.
Yeah, so Dirty Riva, it was done in conjunction with the Dirty Riva Real Life Ride, which is a 200-kilometre gravel ride in the northeast, based around Kiel the Water and Kiel the Forest. Quite a grueling ride, I'm sure you'll agree, at 200 kilometres. Thankfully, the course that we're riding tonight is only a sample of that, just to give you the feel of the course. Big difference between this course and all of the other courses through RGT is that on the other courses, whilst you may look at different terrain that you're riding at different road surfaces, the gravel actually affects the speed. So whilst we've only got some smaller, punchier climbs on this, they do feel much harder than you'd expect them to, and the sections of undulating terrain in between are much slower than you'd expect. So it's a little bit of a mind trick here. You can find that you might blow up a little bit sooner because you're pushing harder, expecting to be going faster, and just overexert yourself on these sections. Major one to look out for is around about 7 kilometres from the start line. There is a switchback. On that switchback, you're climbing slightly around about 3%. You hit the turn, it smashes you with 20% there and drops down to 10%. But again, it's on these gravel roads, feels worse than it is. You just come up to the crest there. From that point on, you are descending. Next little points of note are near to the finish line, around about 2.6 kilometres from the finish line, there's another 10% kicker. And then coming up towards the finish line, there's a little small section, only about 800 metres from the finish line. Again, another little kicker, and then going into the finish line tonight is very technical. You go back onto the tarmac, some hard lefts, some hard rights. So it may lend itself a little bit to going out a little bit longer, getting the effort in a bit earlier, getting a breakaway, and you might just find that you'd be able to get to the finish line on your own with those technical sections. But we'll have to see how the racing pans out. It's going to be an interesting one.
Yeah, it will be. We've had 2 races already today, the morning and midday races. So let's do a little recap of those. Here's the early morning race. We had JL and Warren G, Oystenson from 3R team, Toto Likoala. You can follow him on YouTube. But it was Skudlarek and Warren Gardner of the SDW team. They put in the early break, but Skudlarek had a little bit of a mechanical, which allowed Warren G to solo away in the final kilometres to take the win. Skudlarek did recover to take second, and John, by the way, in the early morning slot for the first time this week, he had a very chuffed result. He was finishing 3rd. In the midday race, once again, we had a lot of the ODZ team. Joe Delport there, Jason Flores, who set off like a rocket. But it was a quartet of Sam Kimber, David Daly, Antoine Renou, and then Francois Aicard bridging across. Those guys dropped Romuald Garcia in that final few kilometres, that little bump that you mentioned just now. And Francois Aicard, he attacked with about a kilometre to go. He was trying to gain 30 seconds on David Daly in the GC. So he took the win, and just on the line there, David Daly came through, pipped Kimber in the closing metres to take 2nd place. So 34 minutes was the winning time in race 1, but they were 3.5 minutes quicker in race 2 there, 30 minutes 47. It was a hot pace, but also a slightly bigger field, which keeps the pace high. You can get some drafting on this course, so we'll be looking out for some of that this evening. It'll be interesting. I think this group will go sub 30. So here's the current series standings then. Sam Kimber currently in the hot seat, David Daly in second, and Francois Eicher in third. He raced hard, but was just unable to gain those 30 seconds to catch up on Daly. We'll bring you the full results after this race, and we'll bring you the final standings in around about, well, it'll be about 45 minutes time from now once this race is done. So I'm just going to get prepped, and as always, Riley's going to give you a little update on the prizes that we've got on offer for you this evening.
Yeah, so we've got some great prizes on offer for you tonight. We've got the Element Hydration sachets, which is a pack of 30 hydration sachets. Add them to water. They give you a real salty, hydrating drink that's excellent for holding back cramps, well, eliminating cramps really. They're a very clean drink. There's no extra additives in there. There's no sugar in there. Loads of different interesting flavours as well. We've been drawing these prizes from Riley's Rider, which is a voted competition. After every event, we've been asking people to jump onto Facebook, the RGT users group, and vote in a poll. And yesterday, that poll was won by the Night Train with a storming result. James Melville stormed through in the race, recovered very well to get himself onto the poll. But the Night Train was the one that garnered the votes, and he's the one that's won that prize, so we'll get that out to him ASAP. We're also drawing from everyone that finishes the race in each of the stages. They're going to be drawn randomly for a Giro d'Europa mug, and that was drawn for Jonathan Stevens yesterday, so he'll have a mug on his way to him. The Giro d'Europa mugs and a lot of other RGT memorabilia can be found on our shop, which is vcyclingnews.co.uk. There are offers running in the shop this week. I think it's 20% off. There was a discount running, then there's also a discount on postage. So head over to the shop, check out the latest discounts. We're heading into the race now, not too far off the start. I can see Ryan Deadpool, Nick Hall, Mike Lister, all there. James Melville, all ready to start. The engines are running, they're going into the red power zones, and they're off. I can see Joris Shepherd's there from Rassia Racing as well. Not too far off the start line, we're heading into a steep incline, and this will slow the riders somewhat. We're still on the tarmac here though, on the tarmac running into the fire roads, deeper into the forest before we go into the gravel section. And we can see that this has started off with a fiery pace from the beginning, as is per usual, but this incline is keeping people into those red power numbers a little bit longer. 500 watts there for one of the riders, as John Samu has gone clear on the front slightly here. Possibly just the rider that found the right gear there, or one that's been cranking out the power a little bit more. See, he's up at 590 watts there. That's some raw power. It is a 17.7 kilometre course, so it's unlikely that someone will take it from the front all the way to the finish without the group of riders coming back. In between these punchy climbs, there's quite a lot of undulating surface, so a team of riders will be able to work together and reel somebody back in. At least they should be able to work together. This is a conversation we had briefly last night about riders working together on the virtual platform. It can be quite difficult to communicate within the platform, typing messages out when you're at your limit. And if you've not got yourself on a Discord group or some other communication between your team, it can be a little bit difficult to work together, and you quite often get riders just trying to sit in the draft on a big group and not doing turns on the front. We see Christophe Contant there coming over from the pedalaires. He's just passed John Samu, and John Samu's putting in an effort there to ensure he keeps his place at the front of the grouping. Christophe been a very solid rider who's being voted for in the poll last night as well. He's had some good solid performances all the way through this series. He's just opened a little bit of a gap on the group there. Kill the Water up in the northeast of England. It's a fantastic area, very beautiful. Kill the Water, used for all sorts of water sports. A message through from Falk Levy in there saying, have fun everyone. I'm not sure that the riders on the course will be having too much fun just at this moment. They might be enjoying it slightly more when they're finished. Nick Hall's on the lead of the pack there, making sure the Christoph content doesn't get too far away. Brought a rider with him off the front of the pack there. Nick Hall from the Friday Crit Racing Club. I think they're a club that's predominantly on Swift, and a lot of their riders have come over to RGT recently, enjoying series like this one. See Rockcall there, who's also had some good results during the week in the earlier sessions. See Krajowski, the night train, has come racing in this group session, this 7 o'clock session UK time. James Melville putting an excellent time yesterday. Considering he had a technical at the beginning, he had to recover a lot of ground. And just passing a group of the hoardings there, seeing signs for some of the people who've been involved. Got the Element signs there, got ESTV, which is estv.co, who are the streaming service that we push a lot of our races to. They have an app that can be downloaded on Amazon TV, a lot of the Android boxes, Slingbox, RockU TV, so you can watch esports TV, you can watch lots of cycling, you can watch all sorts of drone racing, Fortnite, all sorts of different electronic sports entertainment through there. And you saw the Element signs there of one of our sponsors who provided some prizes for us. And it's great to have the in-game sponsorship, these in-game assets, just to give a nod to the people who are providing support for you. And you saw Hunt on the chalk on the roads as well at some point, which is Hunt were involved with the creation of this course at the beginning. They're involved with the Dirty Reaver ride. See Matthew Stratford on the front here.
So it's only just settled down. That was a really hard opening 5 minutes. We had that initial climb where Samu went hard, and then the pace just continued. Feels like it has just settled a little bit now, but we're about to head off into the gravel, where I'm sure it's going to get tough again.
Yeah, we just dropped down a short descent, a right-hander, and into the gravel section, and it knocks around about, I think it's around about 2 kilometers off your speed as you're dropping into that. Obviously varies depending on how fast you're going in the first place, but it is noticeable, the difference of the effort. See Nick Hall's on the front there. He's been very aggressive in these races, not bagged himself a podium yet, but may have a chance tonight. Casper Hederdam not able to attend today's racing, so he's dropped out of the GC contention. I've not seen Rasmus Feldball in this racing yet. We've got Mike Garwood, Paul Padell and Fleming back there in a little, sorry, Marcus Garwood, number 27, a little bit further back in the groupings there. Back up in the front end here, we've got Gav Ash pushing out 350 watts. And he's protected right there, enjoying some of the draft. There's Wouter Claes, teammate of Francois Eicher. They'll be looking for another win. Moods Place has taken one win this series already. I think that was on the Tempelhof circuit. And just looking back for this group further down the road as the gradients have increased here, you can see Fleming back, so playing a little bit of a fly there. He's broken off the front, catching towards M. Skilling. Marcus Garwood, Paul Padella just reeling him back in a little bit. And there's Rasmus Feldbaum, one of the Danish riders. He's often been at the front of the races with Kasper Hededam, really lighting these races up. I think we've suffered a little bit from a lack of cohesion from the chasing groups. They've not worked together to chase down Rasmus Feldbaum and Kasper Hededam in these earlier races and allowed them to just open up an insurmountable lead often. He's back in the pack tonight though. You have to see whether a little bit later on he gets himself moving and gets out the front. It was James Melville is on the front here. I have a feeling that this sort of terrain will suit James Melville, but I don't know whether he's put in a little bit too much of an effort yesterday. He had a technical and had to recover and made a fantastic ride of it. As Nick Greenhouse takes the front. Nick Greenhouse, Ratio Racing. They're a popular team on RGT, set up a lot of events. There's another event on Monday night that's been set up by the Ratio Racing guys. They do some unscheduled events, usually organised around about 3 or 4 days before they're due, often on Monday night, but then not always there. Stratford again taking the front. You can see Tom Gates there back in 15th position. He's keeping himself safe in the peloton, saving a little bit of energy. There are some aggressive power climbs coming up. First 9 kilometres of the course is generally climbing, and then it's mostly descending the rest of the way back to the finish line with a few lumps and technical corners that are involved there. It's a little group of 3 there. Nick Hall chasing on. It's back with a group further down. Back in the 30s here, we've got Equi in 33rd. Vigel, Balshaw, Wright back in 39th position. See Colvig just behind them, only 40 metres off the back. I wonder if we'll make it onto this group. Verkator in that group as well. Miss Andrei Krajowski, Ratio Racing, his teammate Nick Greenhouse. They often work together in the Monday nights racing, and you can see some very animated, some very controlled racing from the Ratio Racing guys, as they really work together to open up gaps on the pack. Joris Shepp is in this group as well. You can see the team tactics being brought into play by them brilliantly. Just mention as well, you've probably noticed the ZMS live stream on the hoardings around the grounds around the racetrack, and you can't miss them on the feed there. ZMS live stream bring all the broadcasts. Myself and Mike adding a little bit of voice to them, but all of the camera work is done by ZMS live stream. Do a lot of work behind the scenes, prepping and making sure that they can get the best angles as they're going through the courses. Which really pays off when you're seeing work like this. Daniel Cadiz just dropping off the back of that group there as we're hitting this climb. Oh no, we're on a flat section here. I'm not sure why Daniel Cadiz has dropped a power like that. And he's just powering back up again there. His power's fluctuating quite a lot there. I'm not sure if he's having some connection issues, maybe a slip chain. Power's back up 517 watts. He's chasing on hard as Tom Gates has dropped off the back of the pack there. I don't know if he's doing that to help Daniel Cadiz or whether he's having an issue himself. He may have just blown there. Daniel Cadiz, time trialist, so he may well have the power just to hold it to get back onto this group now. It's not too technical, this section that he's climbing in. And again, his power's dropped out. He's having a nightmare. James Melville on the front there, Nick Hall pushing through. Angus Smith in the group there. I think I just caught the name Sealer there. Stratford once again comes through onto the front. Stratford being very animated in this race. Christophe Contant still in that front group. So just looking back there, 47th position I think it is. Ryan Deadpool, looks like he's done for the day. He's going back for the groupetta. Very active in the early parts of the race, tries to give Nick Hall as much of a lead out as he can. He's a man for the flatter races. Ryan Deadpool's got Gabe there as well in position 50th. James Melville pushing out 430 watts. Just coming up on this climb, it's 10% now. Just feathering off. Angus Smith, he's a racer who's been up there in the top 10 frequently. Fought till the end, but he's not quite bagged himself to the podium yet, but he's had some good finishes. Nick Greenhalgh dropping off the pack there, finding the pace a little bit high tonight. I think there's a few of the riders. See, Woods Place has gone back in 10th there as well. He's dropped back. Got Greenhalgh, Krajowski, Sheppers all together there with Woods Place. I think the series racing hitting 5 days one after the other, just affecting the legs a little bit for some of these riders. And finishing on Dirty Reaver, which is a surprisingly difficult course given that there's not a great amount of elevation. Can be quite difficult for a Friday evening. Nick Hall still in the front, James Melville pushing hard, and Christophe Contant. And then we see Stratford making a break for it on the front here. He's seen that we're coming to the top of the elevation, we're coming to the top of the climbing, and he's pushing hard now to open up on the group. And he is opening up a gap, 37 metres, as he goes back into the red, sprinting hard. Trying to get himself over the top here. Not seeing any other riders going with him. Matthew Stratford, 780 watts. See the gap open up. I think it must be around about 100 metres there back to the group, and we are just going to enter into a descent now. Good time to have attacked there. 9.2 kilometres left to the finish. See the pack behind. Nobody really taking up the chase here. Nick Hall putting in a small amount of effort. Rockwell now putting some power down. Angus Smith. Quite often in these circumstances you see that the riders in the pack following will attack each other, but they're not attacking the lead rider. They're not working together and taking shifts on the front. So Christophe Contant, who'd lost contact briefly there, is coming back in to the group. So that is a well-timed attack by Matthew Stratford there. Nick Hall putting in some effort now. Rockwell with him. You see there, Rockwell, he he just forced his way back up to Nick Hall's wheel and then eased off again. He wasn't running through and taking the front of the race. He wasn't taking over and adding to the firepower. It's Matthew Stratford once again putting in these mega efforts on the front. He's up at 830 watts there. His power is fluctuating, but I'm not sure whether that's because he's just putting in a few quick turns of the crank, a few power turns, and then sitting back down. His power steadies up again at 280 watts. Angus Smith on the front of the chase group. 7-second gap now. And once again we see the settling of pace. No one prepared to put the efforts in to bring back Matthew Stratford. I wonder whether they'll be ruining that in a few minutes. Stratford just putting in a bit of effort around that corner to bring himself back up to speed, back up to descending speed. Rubar takes the front there. Nick Hall, and I think that's James Melville coming through back into the pack.
I do wonder, Riley, if these guys in the pack are just letting Stratford go because they know he's not a GC threat. They might be content just to work together. There's a smaller group there. We know some of the top 10 have fallen back out of this group. Place and Sheppers, they're in the top 10 in GC, but Melville's looking to jump back up. Rockwell as well, Angus Smith and Contant. So maybe they're just thinking, let's stick with these guys, nothing silly, let that stage go. So as I say this, they're now closing to 30 metres of Stratford. So maybe my insight and analysis is completely useless. Back to you, Riley.
I'm not quite sure how they managed to do that there, Mike. I was watching them ride. None of them were really taking the lead on the front, putting the power in. And Stratford was putting efforts in there of 800 watts, albeit intermittently, and yet they have closed him down. I know you descend faster as a pack, but yeah, I'm quite surprised that they've reeled him in like that.
Maybe they were just watching the stream and heard me saying these guys aren't trying hard enough and they wanted to prove me wrong.
That must be the case. It's the only explanation that's possible. Christophe Contant has dropped out of this group, and quite dramatically as well. He's been distanced by 200 metres there.
Well, it's good to know that they are watching the stream. We've got David Bussey in there. He's asking the question, does the gravel slow the riders down? Yes, it does. So you do have to work harder when you're on the gravel sections to maintain your speed. It is hard work. We've also got the Ratio Racing team cheering on Joris and Andre. Not sure why they're not cheering on Nick Green, although he's also in this race for the Ratio Racing team. Maybe he'll get a shout out in a minute.
Yeah, the Ratio Racing guys have slowed and formed their own group. They're just picking up Christophe Contant there from the Pedalers Racing team. I wonder whether Christophe dropped and has just decided that he'd sit and wait there for the Ratio Racing Wood to Clace group to catch him back up and work with them to the finish line. It is quite an interesting dynamic. Go, Christophe. Thank you, Christophe. He's just confirming what I've said there on the feed. Christophe, stop typing and get pedalling. Yeah, so sorry, going back. It is quite an interesting dynamic to race on the gravel When you feel yourself going from the tarmac sections onto the gravel section, the speed drops away, and you come round in these climbs that normally you're looking at the height, the length, the gradient. You just power over them when they're on a tarmac road, and they just bring you to a standstill on the gravel. I mean, I say standstill, they bring me to a standstill on the gravel. A lot of these riders have been making it look easy going over these little lumps in the road. But yeah, it's a very interesting dynamic, quite different. We see Wouterklaes and the Ratio Racing guys there, all working together to protect the time on GC.
It's quite deceiving when you look at the gradient. When it's on the screen, you can see the coloured bands, the reds, the blues, the greens, and actually a lot of those green sections are 1.5%, so they are slowly, gently uphill, and it really is quite draining. You don't notice it too much when you look at the gradient, it just looks green, but this really is an undulating course that saps your energy. And we see Melville now looking to try and gain that minute. That will throw him nicely up the GC standings.
Yeah, Melville putting an effort there on that little descending section. We go down this descent, there is some climbing sections in this, but there is a lump around about 2 kilometres from the finish, and then there's another one around about 800 metres from the finish, which it'd be prime positions, prime points for riders to attack and take this race to the little group that they're with. See Rasmus Felbel, that's the first time that I've clocked him taking the lead in the race. All the other races he's been in with Casper Hirdam, the pair of them have gone off the front and controlled the race from the front, controlled the pace from the front. He seems to have been sitting in the wheels a little bit more tonight. Don't know whether that's because he's not rode this course as much as some of the others, perhaps, not as much knowledge. And we're showing there an 18-second gap back to the next group on the road, which I think is the Ratio Racing group on the road there. That's a quite significant gap with only 3.3 kilometres left to go. And Nick Hall still in this group, just taking the lead there. We see Matthew Stratford coming through once again, one of these little sprint efforts. And Rasmus Felbel just up in the power here. And the other riders in this group are being wary of him, not allowing him to pull off the front and break the draft to the next rider behind. And Patrick Roubaix, he's a little bit distance there.
Yeah, he's got to be careful, it's so close between Roubaix, who was in 4th place at the start of the day, down to 10th place. There's a minute in it. And he's got Nick Hall there, who could easily leapfrog him and take a podium position. So these riders for the last 2.5 kilometres really are going to have to dig deep if they want to protect their GC positions.
So this is one of those little lumps I was talking about leading into the finish of this race. James Melville taking it on. I say it's a little lump, it is significant, but he's pushing away and he's opening up a small lead on this group now. If he can keep this effort on all the way to the finish, we've got another lump, as I say, about 800 metres from the finish line, and then the finish line itself is quite a technical one. Having some gapping over the riders behind you would definitely be of benefit. As you see Angus Smith there. Oh no, I'm not sure which rider that is that's just set off in pursuit of James Melville, and Nick Hall is not allowing him to go. He's straight on his wheel. That's Matthew Stratford again. So we've got Melville, Stratford as we go over this bridge. straight over this bridge into a left-hander and then a slightly more technical descent.
So just a reminder, that midday slot, 30 minutes and 43 seconds. So these riders got 3 minutes to complete the remaining 1.8 kilometres if they want to beat that time. I'm going to be a couple minutes behind that, so I'm possibly going to slide down the GC. I know David Daly will be watching with interest, as he was the rider behind me on the GC and he set a good time earlier today.
Well, we've regrouped as Rasmus Feldball hits the front and opens up. Nick Hall watching him like a hawk, and he's straight off in pursuit. Rasmus Feldball hitting 500 watts there and maintaining it. Into an auto brakes corner, back underneath the bridge. And now setting off steadily at 400 watts. The group just pegging him back slowly. James Melville comes through and onto his wheel. Angus Smith just behind him. Rasmus Feldball not giving up just yet though, he's not eased off. We're just entering into this little lump now. There's another little hill climb. Expect to see those power bars go red again as the riders push hard up this hill. And Melville attacks. Melville's going, Angus Smith with him. Rasmus Feldball straight away seeing the risk. He's putting the power down as well, but Melville's opened up a gap already. 600 metres to the line. Angus Smith is going deep now, trying to recover. Melville 400 watts there as he's opened up a gap, 182 heart rate. And he's clear on the riders behind with only 440 metres left to go. 350 watts, he's eased off slightly on a little descent now. 260 metres left now. Back onto the tarmac. These technical corners into the finish. Melville once again opens up his final sprint now. Looks like Melville's got this win sewn up. 90 metres left. See the finish line in sight. It's 40 metres back to Stratford, who's now opening up his own sprint. Melville over the line in first. Stratford can't quite hold off Angus Smith, and then Feldball comes through in fourth. We've got Nick Hall and Rockwell close here as Hall's going to take it, and Rubai coming through in seventh. Joris Sheppers leaving his Ratio Racing teammates behind as he's onto the tarmac now. He's got a 40 metre gap over Wouterklaes. And he's coming through, comfortable 8th position. Wouterklaes is the Moon Riders team. And then we see Daniel Cadiz, who had some earlier issues, dropping power. Andrei Kujawski, the two of them battling. Cadiz just takes it back over from Kujawski on the line. And Nick Greenhouse coming in, he's in 12th position. Christophe Contant couldn't quite stay with this group when he got back to them. Christophe Contant dropping at another place there to Jay Beams, it would look, and another to Dubray, unfortunately. Nick Greenhouse keeping the power on to the line, a little bit of a sprint there for show. Beams comes through. Gavache. And the Night Train coming through in 17th position there. The winner of the Element Hydration Salts from last night's Riders Poll. So come through a little bit further back on the group in here. We've got Kerry, Samu. I think it's Bushnell there. Coming through onto the tarmac. Tight racing now. Samu's a strong rider, expecting to open up his sprint early. Kerry's gone with him. Can Samu get in his wheels? Samu's fighting hard, but it looks like Kerry's broken free. Samu's being taken by... It's Rushneck there. It's coming through. Samu lost 2 places there. back on the road with Mike Lister back in 21st now. It's Stevens. Jonathan Stevens is coming up on Mike Lister. Jonathan Stevens, the winner of the Giro d'Europa mug. And you can see Mike Lister there in his sights. Mike, hard week of racing, struggling now between the racing and the commentating to keep his power. And we'll see whether Jonathan Stevens can make it back to him. Mike Lister onto the tarmac now, a few technical corners. Opening up with a sprint for show now. Emptying the legs on the road. He comes over the line as Jonathan Stevens is entering the tarmac. You can see the finish line. Back in 23rd position, I think that's Tino Ackenbach there. Through it, so you see Tom Gates and Skillings. Skillings just overtook Tom Gates there as they came into the tarmac. As we go further back now, we've got Fleming back, Marcus Garwood, Paul Podell. This group have been tight all the way through this race. Fleming back, comes over the line before Marcus Garwood. Oh, I think Paul Podell just overtook Marcus Garwood at the line there, and Lee Marshall comes through. Yeah, Paul Podell just managed to pit Marcus Garwood, only thousandths of a second in it. As you're seeing Lyons coming through, 30th position. Onto the tarmac, feeling the resistance ease. A bit of relaxation in the legs. Once again, got to give thanks to ZMS Livestream for providing all of the coverage, all the camera views, all of the tables, all of the animations that you see, all provided by ZMS Livestream. Fantastic production quality. Lots of time and effort behind the scenes to get this looking to this sort of level. We see Walker coming through now. Walker in 31st position. A big gap over Colvig. He's back in 32nd. And don't forget to check out the V-Cycling News page on Facebook. Quite often have some little insights into what's happening in the world of RGT. What could be up and coming, some teasers for new features that are arriving, perhaps a little bit ahead of schedule before they're released in the app. Back with Wrights now, 34th position.
Oh, well, thanks Riley for covering for me once again. That was a difficult race as expected. The start, as I mentioned, those first 5 minutes, John Samu went out like a rocket. Ryan Dedford as well for the first bit was absolutely launching it. And up that first climb, it does hit 10% straight out of the gates, and then it just didn't settle at all for 5 minutes. Then we were onto the gravel. We had another little steep bit. You can see on the screen there, that second red bit. And then from the second red to the third, which is the steepest part of the course where we get the 20% gradients, that whole section there is about 2.5 kilometres. As I mentioned earlier, it looks green, but it's actually 2.5% on the gravel. You're pushing 300, 350 watts, and you're going 25 kilometres an hour. So you try and up the pace, so you close those gaps, and you might get up to 30k. So it's really hard to close gaps when they start opening up. And then as we saw on that 20% section, it did blow apart a bit. And then even that second half, there's some nice downhills, but those short sections, they do make you work hard. You have to still get on the power. It's just challenging the whole way through. It'll be interesting to see the GC. We'll be bringing that to you in just a moment. But well done to James Marvell there. He worked hard, attacked hard, and he was rewarded with the win. And Angus Smith and Matthew Stratford in second and third. So well done to those guys, getting podiums for I think the first time this week. Falbo down in fourth, but I think he's probably done enough to wrap up the overall. We watch a few more of these riders coming through. So I'll just give my own thanks to everyone as well, just who has been watching and for taking part. We'll do a wrap up shortly, but yeah, thanks a lot everyone. I'm in my usual post-race diet, just getting it all out. I've not been able to speak for 20 minutes because I've been breathing hard, so now I'm just letting it all out and giving Riley a little break. You see Mike Aid there and Stephen Bellio of the OTR team coming across, and then followed by Hodgson just about 70 metres behind them.
It's great to see a whole field finishing, Mike. It's not just the first 10 and then a lot of the riders give up. It's great to see so many of the riders carrying on and going through this to get the times. Fantastic racing from everyone. We might not catch you in the camera, but we try and mention as many riders as we can as we're going through the broadcast. Obviously a lot of the action, a lot of the interest at the front of the race, so unfortunately we can't cover everybody, but we do mention as many people as we can going through, and it's great to have you all. The race is made by everyone taking part, not just a few people.
Yep, certainly is, and we really appreciate everyone turning up throughout the week. So, final results are in, 5 stages completed. I was going to run some stats of how far we've cycled and how many metres we've climbed, but off the top of my head I don't know, I should have prepared that earlier. But congratulations to Rasmus Falbo, taking the win there in 2 hours, 36 minutes, 32 seconds. 1.5 minutes ahead of Daniel Cadiz, who takes the second place. And he was 20 seconds ahead of Angus Smith, who won the battle for that podium place there, just 1 second ahead of Patrick Roubaud. And just to show you how close that was on today's stage, Angus Smith finished second, and he was 2.6 seconds behind James Malville. And Patrick Roubaud was 10 seconds behind Angus Smith. And those three there, look, Angus Smith, Patrick Roubaud, James Malville, 3rd, 4th and 5th, separated by just 9 seconds. So James Malville pushed really hard. He gained a bit of time on Roubaud, but not quite enough to overtake him or Angus Smith. Nick Hall in 6th overall on the GC. And he was 13 seconds behind James Malville in the GC. Then Josh Sheffers, good performance by him throughout the week. Walter Face in 8th, Christophe Contant in 9th. Sam Kimber getting into the top 10 there. Really good performance by him, as he was in mostly early morning races where slightly smaller fields, slightly less draft, so a very strong performance by him. Will be interesting to see in future series if he can get into some of those evening slots. I'm sure he'll be a contender for a podium. 11th place, Anthony Dubray. Gavin Ashton 12th, David Daly up into 13th. I know he'll be pleased with that. He was targeting the top 15. He was just ahead of Francois Eicher. And there's me, 15th place, Mike Lister. I've dropped another couple of places today. My friend there, David Daly, my rival, I know he'll be pleased to get one over on me. He rode really well throughout the week, so well done to Dave and Francois there, who leapfrogged over me today. 16th place, Andrew Pajewski from the Resso Racing team. Rommel Garcia is 17th. Again, one of the earlier day riders, who've done well to get into the top 20. The Night Train in 18th, Scott Kerry in 19th, and Tom Gates in 20th place. So well done, everyone. Yeah, few good mix of riders, I would say. We've got a couple of guys from the Peddlers team, a couple from the Rasso Racing, Moon Riders in there. So a real mixture of different teams, so it's good to see it nicely spread. Oh, certainly been a fun week. I've enjoyed it, Riley. I hope you've enjoyed it too. Got any final thoughts?
Yeah, well, it's been a fantastic week of racing. I just would make a point on the fact that, you know, we're really happy about everyone we're really happy about everyone who takes part in the stages and makes the effort to finish the stages, and that's one of the reasons why when we've been drawing prizes, we've drawn them out of the entire field of people that have completed the stage, and we've not just gone, right, well, there's the top 10, let's look at those. We've tried to pick riders for the poll as well, who perhaps have not been in the broadcasted races as well, and it's an open poll, so it gives everyone a chance to win a prize. But yeah, it's really important that we get as many people to take part in these races as possible, and the races take part further down the field as well. It's not just the top 10, as we saw earlier on. There was Fleming Back, I think it was Paul Padell and Marcus Garwood, I think, in a little pack of 3 chasing for the line. And these positions matter for everyone, and we're interested in seeing these little battles going on further down the course, not just in the top of the field. So it's great to see everyone taking part. Just brilliant. Had a great time.
Yeah, there really has been a lot of battles. You're looking nice and smart there. You got your Friday night shirt on. I've, as always, a little bit dishevelled as we come to us after the race. Got my sweaty kit on there and hairs all over the place. A few thanks just from me. The RGT DB guys, they do a good job. They've made it really easy for us to get the race results and the series results to you really quickly after the race. So that's fantastic, and I'm sure there's going to be some improvements over the coming winter as well, which will just help elevate it even further. And our sponsors, of course, LMNT with the prizes, that's been really good, and ESTV.co as well, getting us out onto the big screen, so that's really exciting, and hoping for good things to come from that relationship and that partnership. And Damon in the background, you don't see him on screen, but he's there pressing all the buttons, switching between the riders, getting his stats up. And yeah, don't forget when you're sending us little messages, he is there. Me and Riley might be the ones on the screen trying to look pretty, but he's the one who puts in a lot of effort in the background as well, setting up everything. So yeah, thanks to Damon for all the graphics that you see. And yeah, I certainly need to have a bit of a rest. I won't be racing for a few days, but it's been great putting this together. You know, it's been really easy to set this up with the way RGT works. We've been able to set up all of these events, and we've been able to plan that in advance, get them on there. It's been pretty good this week. We've not had any issues ourselves with RGT, so that's been good. We've not had any backup rides or anything, so I know there's been 1 or 2 people with issues, but hopefully we can help resolve those connection issues. Do get in touch with myself or Riley. We've got a really friendly community. Get on Discord as well, and hopefully we can help sort out any little issues you might have. So please spread the word. Thanks for watching. Subscribe, like, helps us leverage sponsors so that we can get some more prizes for you guys as well, which I know makes it a little bit more interesting for you and helps encourage other riders. Right, I'm waffling on again, but we're going to be back over the winter. We'll be bringing you lots of live coverage. There's some great events coming up, which I'm going to keep under my hat for the time being. And you just have to check in on Facebook, Discord, and RGTDB to see what's coming up. So thanks a lot, everyone. We'll be sure to see you soon. Thanks for engaging. Enjoy the rest of your evenings and your weekend.
So just a final word for me, big shout out to Element who provided the hydration salts for us. We will be doing a Riley Riders poll, the last one of the week, so get over to our GT users page on Facebook and give us a vote for your favourite rider. I'll be suggesting a few riders on there. I need to look at the rider list to pick out a few of the riders. Did spot some in the race today, but the names are escaping me. So I'll pick those out a little bit later on and get them on Facebook. Element Hydration Salts, all the details of their website and how to get hold of some of their products for yourselves if you haven't been lucky enough to win some through the prizes, are on Facebook. They're on our VCN page, they're on RGTDB. There's a couple of other sponsors on there on RGTDB as well on the series page. If you have a look at those, check out some of the other discounts that are available by following us and by checking out the page. Big thanks to RGT for having such a solid, fantastic platform. We can run races like this on where we can, at the drop of a hat, tell you who was first, second or third without having to wait for it to come from a separate website afterwards. And a big shout out to Damon from ZMS Livestream. I mentioned a couple of times in the broadcast. He's the guy behind the scenes. I just do a bit of talking. I don't have to do too much at all. He's the guy behind the scenes who's spending loads of hours putting the graphics together, making sure that the cameras work, making sure that all the audio works, and making sure that you get some nice shots of the riders. If you've ever tried to do the spectate view through RGT, you'll have realised it isn't that easy following the action as the camera moves around, as the track moves around, to keep riders in focus and to keep the race in focus can be really difficult, and he does a fantastic job of that with 4 different cameras, not just one. So it's really worthwhile giving ZMS Livestream a like and follow on Facebook. And if you're interested in them broadcasting any of your races, get in touch. They've got packages available for different groups, different levels of broadcast. They'd be happy to discuss it with you. But that's it for us for this week. We will have more series, more races coming up. We're always broadcasting other community races through YouTube, Facebook. So check us out, keep those notifications on, and we'll have some great racing for you soon. Thanks for watching.
Good night, everyone.